Well, our first guest this week is joining us direct from New York City, Mr. Ajene Watson. He is the CEO of a company called Digital Asset Monetary Network. Their stock symbol is DATI. Ajene, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back, Don.
Now, Digital Asset Monetary Network describes itself as a company which puts everyday investors on a level playing field with large angel investors. Can you give us a general overview of the company, please?
Sure. Digital Asset Monetary Network is a specialized accelerator. We do not claim to be a typical accelerator whereby we take startup companies or development stage companies and put them into a cohort or a semester and give them mentorships and help them raise money at the end of the semester. What we do is we look to focus on accelerating capital formation for those startups and early development stage companies. The way we do that is by bringing more opportunity to the private investor, giving them liquidity in those private investments without them losing any of that equity. And what we find in doing that, there's more money available for the startups and development stage companies to continue building their businesses. And that allows us to be an add-on to an accelerator versus a competitor to an accelerator. And that's really that's the basis of our business model. Everything around that is to make it work, but the basis is to accelerate capital formation.
Well, it's truly a fascinating business model. What events led you to develop it?
Just my history, my background. That I've been working with the inside of the microcap market since I was recruited in 2001 to 2, working on providing lending products, working on providing various types of financing products, and then eventually I became a business development management consultant. And that occurred because, I think I mentioned this to you before, my mother had a problem with me just making money and not contributing back to society. But the only way I figured I can do that was to still do it within the field that I was most comfortable, and that was in finance. And what we found was that a lot of the companies that we were financing and investing in, they were not doing well. And it wasn't our business to see them do well. Our business was to turn over money, to turn over capital for our funds. But when you're taking an approach as a business management consultant, you are more focused on the shareholders long-term, the company long-term, and that made a big difference to me. And the education I got from that was major. And I found very quickly that it was very difficult to build a company in the microcap space. And creating this company, the Digital Asset Monetary Network, as a specialized accelerator, is my answer to all of the difficulties and challenges that I've faced over the last 8 years.
Can we role play for a minute? Walk us through a typical interaction with an everyday investor wanting to explore opportunities.
Sure. Our setup is not one where we talk to everyday people, everyday investors ongoingly every day, right? There's hopefully millions of them that are going to be part of our community. But what we do, and what we're beginning to do, is allowing these investors to participate in the vetting process. So the way we communicate with them is they're able to, if you're a shareholder or if you're investing on one of our platforms, our crowdfunding platforms, whether it's TrueCrowd or Fundana or Crypto Launch, you're able to participate in the vetting of that company prior to it going on to the platforms. Specifically speaking, our client companies, when I say our, I'm talking about Digital AMN, Digital Asset Monetary Network. We sign on companies, they become client companies, and in that process, we review those companies and say, hey, this is a great company to put onto the TrueCrowd platform. That part of the process, we're allowing the everyday person to participate in. Because why shouldn't they have the opportunity to see these companies very early on and help us make a decision as to whether or not they're going to be viable opportunities for the rest of the world to invest in?
Well, Ajene, from a growth perspective, where do you see the company over the next year?
I probably feel more comfortable speaking over the next 2 years. I believe that next year in 2019, we will likely be able to sign on 60 companies. Even if we were able to do 100, we probably want to focus on 60 good companies, 60 companies that are backed by well-heeled, savvy investors that we put onto our platform. But keep in mind, every client company that we sign has a immediate revenue value of about $50,000 to us, $1,000 if you will. And each one of those then goes off and raises capital, hopefully to the tune of about $1 million each one. And every $1 million or every dollar raised in our crowdfunding platforms is about $2 of asset value to the platform itself. So in 2020, what I'm looking at there is us having, between the 2 years, having done over 150 companies, raising $100+ million for those companies, keeping our platforms in the top 10, as we already are in the top 10, and delivering a significant amount of asset value to Digital Asset Monetary Network.
The company recently repurchased stock which had been issued as part of an acquisition. Can you detail the reasons for this move?
Sure. Being that I have the background I have in the microcap space, one thing I understand is dilution. I understand dilution, I understand toxicity, I understand the perception of those things. And what we want to do is, even where we are making acquisitions using both cash and stock, which is the way it's usually done, right? But when you're in a microcap space, it's horrible to investors to see that that stock is out there. So our stock is somewhat depressed right now in terms of value, where we were trading at $1 and change some time ago. We're down in the 50, 60 cent range. And so one might say, well, why are you buying this stock back now when they can, use it in the open market? And we're saying because we believe that our stock is much more valuable. And so why let this group have the opportunity to dilute the market, whether they're diluting it today or diluting it when the stock is at $2 and $3, when we can control that dilution and the perception of toxicity by just taking it out the market, even if it's costing us $1 a share. I think that's a very healthy way to look at making acquisitions and look at protecting our shareholders from unwanted dilution, unnecessary toxicity.
Once again, Digital Asset Monetary Network, DATI is the stock symbol. Jenny, why is this a good time right now for people to take a closer look at your company?
Because of what's going on in the world. I mean, take a look at what's happening in all the various communities. There's a socio-economic depression, and there's a lack of financial literacy. And until people change that, they're not going to be able to better their circumstances. And what we aim to do is provide folks with that opportunity. Of course, you want people to look at, let me just make it clear, first and foremost, Don, what I'm looking to do these days is not promote DATI, as in, hey, buy our stock, because that's not going to help the average everyday person better their circumstances. What I'm looking to do is promote, hey, take a look at the companies and the people that are investing in these companies and the opportunity to be part of those companies early on. You finally get a chance to be part of a Snapchat early or part of an Uber early when it's actually affordable, where you only have to spend $10 to do so. That's what's important here. Does that benefit DATI? Of course it does, because each one of those companies is part of our portfolio. But if we do not promote good, strong financial literacy and provide opportunity, our stock is not going to do well anyway. So I'm not on the campaign trail to promote our stock. I'm on the campaign trail to ensure that people have an opportunity to know that they can better their financial circumstances and be part of the conversation on what company becomes the next big tech opportunity.
Stock symbols DATI, Digital Asset Monetary Network. Terrific interview with Jenny. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Don.